Hey, this is Alex Albaran. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm interviewing my good friend and a very well-known YouTuber, and he has other endeavors as well, Stephen Gardner. Just for a little background, I've known him for a few years. He has a YouTube channel, just his name, Stephen Gardner. He talks about news and politics and things of that nature. I've seen him grow, and I wanted to bring him on because we talked about before the interview how people want that overnight success, not just with YouTube, but in any business. And I want him to share his journey and just share like what his advice would be for anybody that is in that position, that's starting a business, or they have a 9-to-5, they have a family to support, but they have a dream, they want to build something on the side. And so we can dive into that in today's interview. Stephen, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So if you could just share kind of your journey. Again, I'm sharing the end story of successful YouTuber doing very well, but if you just want to share kind of like, when did you start the channel? And I know you were a retirement kind of like specialist, and like, if people can see that background, we can definitely go from there.
Yeah, I look like an overnight success, but I've actually been at it for almost 20 years. 20 years ago, I got married. I was in my early 20s. I set a goal to become a millionaire when I was making $9 an hour. I had no idea how I would get from here to way up here. And yet I've been able to accomplish that through dedication, setting goals, stick-to-itiveness, never giving up. So before YouTube, I did retirement planning and enjoyed that, showed people how to get out of debt, how to use insurance to their advantage, how to set up these tax-free wealth plans, and enjoyed what I did. My business would have really great years and really low years, and because I was a good saver, I was able to get through them. But we certainly went through some difficult times, and as a business owner, you never know what's going to come your way, good or bad. This YouTube thing came my way, and it was good. And I had other things come my way that I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have never foreseen that. And yet buried in that failure was the seed to my next success. And so if you look at failure as a teaching moment instead of just, abject failure, you're going to get a lot more out of the experience that life will hand you. I remember, Alex, one time being in this group event, and my income was really low. I was frustrated. I was trying to get my business off the ground, and I was thinking, I'm going to quit. I'm just going to go get a regular job. And this guy was talking about all of these people that had failed. Michael Jordan, the guy that started Nike, Dr. Seuss, some of these big names that you think were just wildly successful that went through really difficult times. And he was talking about, not giving up, working hard. And I'll never forget, he pointed right at me. Of all the people in the room, he pointed at me and he said, I'm asking you to dream another dream. And that hit me like a bullet to the chest. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I've been so frustrated with trying to get my business up and running that I forgot to dream big. I forgot to think big. I forgot to, just continue to take action until I got traction. And then now I'm at a point where I just have attraction. I'm just attracting business to myself. So I feel really fortunate, but I could have given up in those lows, but I would have never gotten to those highs. And so my first piece of advice to people would be, I'm asking you to dream another dream. If you want to be a business owner, do not give up. If you want to be wealthy, do not give up. If you want to employ other people, live the American dream, whatever it is, don't give up. We have the Grand Canyon, not because water is powerful, but because it was persistent. It just kept carving through to make the Grand Canyon. So if you don't give up, you will succeed. At the same time, sometimes you have to know when to give up, right? And so with YouTube, I started my YouTube channel in 2008. I was working at a physician staffing agency, and I was kind of mediocre at it, but I had this feeling in 2008, before YouTube was even big. I told my wife, I think video is going to be the future. And I kept trying to do stuff on YouTube, and the owners, my managers at the company, they kept saying, just make your phone calls, just make your phone calls, just make your phone calls. And I was like, no, I really think that the future is video. And so I just kept trying, and I used this for my retirement planning. And then when I wrote my first book, I used it to try to get traction with my book. And by the time I got to my 8th book that I had written, I was starting to get a little bit of traction. And then one day I interviewed a gentleman, and at the end of the interview, he said to me, can I tell you why your YouTube channel sucks? And I was like, oh gosh, another hit to the chest, right? And I was like, okay, I can be humble enough to receive this feedback. And he said, nobody cares about your videos because nobody cares what you're talking about. And I was like, okay, I've got to internalize that and think through that. And so as we came into COVID, I was determined that I was going to grow. I was going to double my business with retirement planning. And I was doing fairly well, making 6 figures at the time. But I wanted to double that. And I thought, okay, YouTube is my strategy for doubling that. Well, the COVID lockdown started, and all of a sudden, my clients panicked and they started pulling money back out. And next thing I knew, I was negative on my income. Now, gratefully, I had money set away, set to the side. But I thought, wait a minute, why am I burning through my savings for some stupid government idea of 15 days to slow the spread that turned into 30 months to slow the spread? Anyway, during that time, I thought, okay, I've got to make a career change. I've got to do something. What could I do that would be massively valuable to a lot of people? And so I started doing more news, government information, stimulus checks, and that's when my channel really started to take off. By the time I met you, I think I had maybe 500,000 subscribers, and now I'm on the verge of 2 million subscribers. It's a lot of work. When most people see my work day, my work schedule, they say, my gosh, I don't think I could keep up with that. Even my employees sometimes have a hard time keeping up with it. Anyway, I've rambled for 7 minutes, but I get excited about this stuff because I've just seen how difficult it can be to do marketing, to do sales, to do accounting, to do all that you have to do to be successful. And yet, I wouldn't want it any other way. I don't want a job, right? For me, a job is temporary. For me, a job is risk, right? And for me, the income of a job was J-O-B, just over broke. Like I was just making it as a W-2 employee. I'll give one more piece of advice and then I'll shut up. But a mentor of mine told me when I was working as a W-2 employee, building other people's empire, he said, Stephen, it's okay to work on your job. It's also okay to work on your side job. And if you work hard enough, one day your side job will become your full-time job. And he said, you can work full-time on your job and part-time on your fortune. And that absolutely turned out to be the case for me.
I love how you said having a job is a risk, because what I hear, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, you could say, that want to become a successful entrepreneur. And a lot of the time they're like, no, but I have this security, I have the safety, they have all of that. But I think once you're in business, you know that no, it's like if you have a job, you have one income source. If you have a business, you might have 10 clients, you might have 100, you might have 1,000 customers. So if one drops off, it's an inconvenience. If you lose your job, your family might be homeless in a few months. If you have a mortgage, you never know. So talk to me about how can people shift that mindset from safety, security, which is most likely going to lead to regret, to taking action. Because like you're saying, failure is really not giving it a shot. Like imagine if you were today, 2025, you never even tried making a YouTube video and you made up excuses like, oh, this wouldn't work for me. And like everybody does, when they try to minimize themselves. So how can someone get out of that mindset of, hey, what you're doing right now with your job, stay, don't leave tomorrow to start your business, keep the job, build a business on the side. But how can someone get out of that mindset of, I'm just going to stay in the job, I only have 25 more years until I retire? How can they start taking action today?
Okay, so a couple of thoughts is your job isn't your security, because if the economy shifted right now, a company has to stay in business. They would drop you if it meant staying in business. So for me, a job really was risk, and I've been let go from jobs, none of it because of my performance, all of it because changes in the environment or whatever, right? So having a job isn't security, right? For me, what was security was becoming a good saver and having money in the bank, right? And whenever I mentor other people, I say, think of this as runway, right? If you were going to take off in an airplane, you wouldn't take off if you didn't have enough runway, right? So having the runway is what mitigates the risk, right? So if I have, let's say, $50,000 in the bank, or let's go lower, $30,000 in the bank, right? And right now I'm making $6,000 a month. I now know, okay, if I didn't make a penny with this idea, I've got 5 months of runway, 5 months of calm, 5 months of every single day, 150 days of just giving it everything I've got in order to get money up and running, right? Now, if you can't get it up and running in that time, there might be something wrong with your business model, but every business is a little different. Sometimes there's long sales cycles, sometimes there's shorter sales cycles, right? But typically in a business, you're not going to go 5 or 6 months with no money, right? So maybe 1 or 2 months in, now you go, okay, now I've got $1 or $2 or $3 or $4,000 a month coming in. Your runway just extended because now you've got income supplemented by your runway. And then over time, by the time you get there, you go, okay, now I've got leftover runway, but I'm making enough to cover my bills. Now you shift that money from runway over into a war chest. So once you have a war chest, now you really have mental security that, okay, if something happened, I can convert this back into runway, or if there's a legal bill or an unexpected bill or whatever it is. And then as you make more money, you just keep adding to that war chest, right? And eventually you'll say, okay, now my war chest has enough money. Now I can expand, or I can quit my job and make this my full-time endeavor, or I can hire somebody that now they can work while I do other things. So that would be my first thing. The second thing would be, you can always start a business on the side. It's never going to do as well as just throwing yourself, into the deep end of the pool and forcing yourself into swimming lessons. But that's not always the best risk for a lot of people, because starting a business can be very difficult. But if you just take action, right? I tell people I have a 3-step formula for action, or for success, sorry. Number 1, take massive amounts of action. Just grind, hit the floor, hit the phone, hit the going to visit clients or whatever. Lots and lots of action. Eventually, you're going to get traction. Something's going to happen. You're going to close a deal. You're going to pick up a client. You're going to sell ABC or a widget or whatever it is. And then eventually you become the expert, the best, the most reliable, the most trusted. And now it's attraction. You're getting referrals, repeat sales, people adding on to sales. So it just kind of starts to cascade in your favor, but you have to just take massive amounts of action in order to get to that traction.
Mm-hmm. And I've never heard that before, the runway versus the war chest, right? Like, it's very different. When I started my business, I had a 2007 Mazda Speed 6. It was a stick shift, so I had to learn how to drive stick shift in high school. I sold that for like $4,000 because I'm like, same exact thought. I'm like, well, right now, my bills are like $500 a month. I'm in like 18 years old. I have no kids. Like, best time to start a business probably in hindsight. But I sold the car because I'm like, I can go to Starbucks 7 days a week. I can get a nice coffee. I can get free refills. I can eat chicken, pollo tropical for lunch, cheap, 7 days a week. This will give me like 9 to 12 months. Maybe I can get a client here and there in the meantime. Then, like you're saying, years later, a war chest is like, I can build this relationship with this client and not need money from them in the next 18 months, or not even like ask them for anything in the next 2 years. I like that distinction because runway, like I think 85% of real estate agents I read, they quit after the first year, if not within the first year. And I think it's probably because of that. They go in, they may only have a few $1,000s in savings. They don't close their first deal and they're like, oh, like I got to get a job. I can't pay my rent this month. But I think if people get the runway, then yes, that's the beginning phase. But the war chest, you can also then fire annoying clients you don't like, or you don't have to take on that client if they have bad vibes from day one. And I like what you said about taking massive action, but I think it's also consistently over a long period of time, right? I think a lot of people can take action January 1st, they'll go to the gym, and then January 30th, their membership's canceled, or they're just going to keep it forever and never go back. So if they can take action, massive action consistently for a long period of time, especially with something like YouTube, right? Because a lot of people, even if they're great speakers, like one-to-one with their family or like in person, transitioning that to speak to that little red dot on the camera, that's not an easy thing to do. That takes thousands of reps. And so talk to me about that. Like, were you always natural on camera, or what did you kind of learn as you started making so many videos?
Most people don't believe this, but I'm actually an introvert. I like to read. I'm not super outgoing. My wife makes most of our plans. I'm happy to let her make most of our plans. But when it comes to business, I just realized that being timid means no money. And I'm the only one that makes money in my family. So 16 years ago, we had a baby. We looked at how much it would cost for daycare, and we made the decision that my wife was going to become a stay-at-home mom. And for us, it's worked. It's been a sacrifice. There were times we were a one-car family. There were times where we didn't get to go on a vacation. Like, we sacrificed now to have a better future. Until you're like in the thick of it, you don't really understand the pressure of it. But that pressure for me was good, right? Like, I needed that pressure and that support from my wife to be able to go out and take that action. And for me, that was the risk, right? Like, my wife took a risk on me, and then I took a risk on myself, and it has paid off more than I can even explain to people. But going back to your question, if you go back and watch my first videos, they're terrible. And if you go watch my videos now, they're not great. So what do? I try to bring as much value to the video as I can every day. So maybe the video quality is terrible. Maybe the microphone quality is terrible. Most people don't know this, but I'll share this here. I got my first 1 million subscribers on YouTube on a broken iPhone. So again, did I say I need the best equipment? I need the best lighting. I need the $1,500 microphone like Joe Rogan? No. I took a broken iPhone and I said, what value can I give to the market or to my audience or my community today that would make people want to click? And then from there, you just have to have integrity. We don't do clickbait. We tell people the truth. We add as much value as we can. We look for patterns. What do people like? What don't people like? And you let the audience kind of guide you. But at the end of the day, it's your channel. You've got to do that. So was I a great speaker? No. But was I used to speaking with people? Yeah. I've been talking to people most of my life, but I've got to come out of my, I've got to become an extrovert in order to make an income.
No, I mean, I was the same way, like as a kid, even like high school, like early college. I hated doing presentations and putting myself out there. And now I'll do a webinar where like 1,500 people are looking at me live and I have to deliver. I have to make things happen. I've had like, even with, Dr. Turley, videos where it's like, I know this is going to be seen by a lot of people and it's one take, like I can't mess up. But like you're saying, I think people, once they get that pressure, they can perform. But I think for someone in your position with, like you're saying, the kids, the family, a lot of people, they don't want to take action. They want to just think. They want to have the perfect, like you're saying, microphone, the perfect camera, the perfect background. You just took action, and then over time you evolved. So how can someone get out of that mindset of, I need the perfect everything? Again, like idea, audience, niche, everything. Whereas you said, I'm just going to do it and then evolve over time. Even since COVID, over the last 4 or 5 years, what you speak about, how you make videos has evolved and changed. And so not just for new business owners, but even existing businesses, how can they think about evolving and changing, not just having the perfect idea before they get started?
Yeah. I mean, I think some of that is just a personality thing of mine, but somebody could certainly develop that and just say, okay, perfectionism is hurting me. And so good has to be good enough. And sometimes taking action is more important than being perfect. And I got to tell you, I mess up on videos all the time, and I almost never edit those mistakes out because I would rather be authentic than perfect. Because like at the end of the day, like I'm just a human trying my best every day to be a good provider to my children and to my wife of 20 years. So I just think at some point you have to let go, right? And you just have to say, I've prepared enough, or I've practiced enough, or whatever. If it's a video, just practice a couple of times and then give it your best. And if your best has mistakes, then your best had mistakes and you just got to move forward. Same thing with marketing. I've spent money on marketing where I'm like, wow, that was a giant failure. And I've spent money on other times and I'm like, wow, that was wildly successful. Thank goodness I took the risk, right? So again, but part of that is having runway. If you're spending your last $5,000 on, like this is my Hail Mary pass and it doesn't work out, then you're in trouble, right? But if you have that runway, it gives you confidence, right? And I've always believed that the ability to produce income gives you more confidence than the ability to be like a good investor, right? Like, oh, I bought into Apple and I'm up 8%. Okay, great. But did you produce an income, right? Like for me, those things matter most. And they build my confidence more. So again, I just go back to take massive amounts of action. You do have to look at what you're doing and go, okay, am I making a lot of momentum, but not any progress? You have to measure, am I making progress? And part of businesses is someone willing to write me a check. If they're not willing to write you a check, maybe your good idea isn't that good. And you've got to revamp or modify or try a different price point or whatever. I have a good friend. He was doing health coaching and fitness coaching over the internet. And I always thought he needed to lower his prices, but actually once he increased his prices, his sales more than doubled. And later he figured out that people, when he had a lower price trying to be helpful, they were actually thinking, well, if he's that affordable, you probably don't lose weight, right? And so by paying more, they paid more attention, and he actually ended up making way more money. So again, everyone has to figure out their path forward, but just continually moving forward is the best advice that I have.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And I love how you mentioned like the ability to develop and, increase your income. I learned that, from a mentor that's financial freedom. I think financial freedom in the mass market of course, the United States, people think retirement, millions in the bank. Like they think, oh yeah, like I'm working this job, but in 25 years, I'm going to have X in the bank, and that's financial freedom. But like you're saying, the stock market can crash, interest rates can go up. You can think you're going to sell your house. You can't. Your rental, that you have a tenant in, they're not going to pay. Look, COVID, they might not pay you for 2 or 3 years. You can't evict them. So the ability to generate income, especially not in a job in the marketplace, especially now with online and AI, that's true financial freedom. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I do. I think, they say cash is king, cash flow is king or whatever. As a business owner, I don't care how much money's in the bank because I'm not planning to spend most of it. What I care about is where's my next paycheck, right? And I used to call it working close to the money, right? I would be working with, let's say, 10 clients that I hoped would become an actual client and give me money for their retirement planning, right? Every day I would think, okay, I've got to work close to the money. Who is closest to saying yes, handing me money and moving forward? They would get my attention, but I wouldn't ignore the other people. I just had to give more attention to where's the closest money. Same thing in like closing a deal, right? You've got to just think through like, okay, who is closest to closing? They get more attention. So yeah, like for me, sales revenue, money coming in every week, every month, that is more important than what I have in the bank because I don't even need to spend this, but I do need to keep that money flowing, right? It's like, I'm more focused on the stream than I am the lake, right? Like in the beginning, I didn't have a reservoir. So I cared a lot about the stream. Now I've got a big reservoir. I still care about the stream, right? Because if water isn't constantly flowing, your reservoir dries up and you're out of business anyway. So keep your focus on what is going to generate money for my business consistently. And that's where you need to take the most action.
Exactly. I think sales cures all. I mean, that's the old saying. And if you put all your attention, like you're saying, on the first 2 to 3 hours a day, like 8 to 11, marketing, prospecting, looking at your pipeline, making a video, like outreach. I think if most business owners do that, not that they're definitely going to be successful, but in a year from now, if they did that every day, I bet they would be in a better position. So Stephen, if you can leave people with one nugget or lesson or experience that you've had, I think people would love to hear that.
So there's a great book. I think you can get it on Amazon. It's called Millionaire Master Plan. And that book was really instrumental in helping me get very methodical and strategic about running a business. And it basically walks you through like going from a business that's negative money to one that's bringing in thousands or hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands or millions of dollars. And it walks you through, and it's really interesting there. The other thing is if you can figure out a mentor, somebody that's already doing what you're doing, watch what they're doing, copy it, mimic it, look for best practices. That's what I do every single day, even though I get lots of eyeballs. And it just looks like this seamless, great show. Behind the scenes, I'm studying, I'm researching, I'm practicing, I'm looking for the very best information. So I would just say, figure out your business and then take a lot of action and then watch that turn into traction. And then once you're good enough, you'll start attracting. And then you'll say, wow, where were those people all of this time, right? Like sometimes I say to myself, whether I'm having a good income week or a bad income week, I just say to myself, I'm surprised at how easily money comes to me. I can't tell you how often I say that to myself. And what I'm trying to do is keep an abundance mindset of not chasing money away from me with fear or doubt. It's just, I'm going to take action and I trust that money is going to show up, and I just keep putting that out to the universe. And now I just feel like, okay, wait a minute. Not every week is a home run, but I just, like, my mental state is that I'm in constant belief that things are going to work out in my favor.
Exactly. Especially in sales, I think people can smell desperation if you have that scarcity mindset and you're like, I need to close this deal like today, or I'm not going to pay my mortgage. Or if you just have fear, people can sense that. And then if you have abundance, you're like, oh no, take your time. Like, I don't need your money. And they're like, no, but here's my money now. Like, I want to work with you because I want some of that abundance mindset as well. And so what was that book called again? Just so people can look it up.
I believe it's Millionaire Master Plan. It was
Millionaire
really,
Master Plan.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, Stephen Gardner, thanks so much for coming on. You can just look him up on YouTube, just his name, Stephen Gardner. Hope we can do it again sometime soon. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you.